Welcome to I'll Marry You, a podcast with me, Olivia Coleman, full of tips and tricks from the UK wedding scene, interviews with industry experts, and a whole lot of oversharing. So everyone always says to me, and they've been saying to me for a while, do I use Chat GBT or whatever it is to write my ceremonies? And I've never, and it makes me nervous, and I don't trust it, and I don't understand it. And I've recently downloaded the app. And so I typed in, who is Larry Walshe? Have you ever done it?
How did that go for you?
Have you ever done it yourself?
I haven't.
Okay, do you want to know what it says?
Sure, I'll take that. Yeah, let's see.
Right, let's have a look. Can you still hear me? Let's have a look. Okay, so Larry Walshe is, hang on, it comes up, it's pretty good, pretty accurate. Comes up with a picture of you. Very nice, lovely picture. Larry Walshe is a UK-based luxury florist and event designer. And then it goes on. He operates studios in at least 3 locations, London, Lake Como, and New York, to have a global presence, like you and Gaga, something you have in common. And then it goes on, And then it says, if you like, I can dig up a more detailed biography. Would you like me to look further? So obviously I said, yes, please. Larry Walshe originally had creative inclinations. Now, Larry, what would you call a creative inclination?
It's a way of putting it, isn't it?
What does that mean?
So I started my career originally as a dancer. I went to theatre school. I worked in the West End. And then I had an accident. I couldn't dance anymore. I damaged my back and I needed to work off. The two was.
What happened? Was it like some sort of freak ballet flip or something?
No, I was doing a particular move over and over again, but ultimately I crunched the nerves in the base of my spine. And so it meant that, like, very, very shortly after the incident happened, and for multiple months after that, I could barely walk.
How long ago was this? How old were you?
I was like in my early 20s.
This is like a terrible rom-com. So you were a dancer. Little Larry just wanted to dance.
What I was. Billy Elliot was coming to life.
God,
And then
that
it was
is, do you know what?
Good.
The bit in Billy Elliot at the end, when he comes on the stage and he does the leap and the dad goes, that is one of my favourite moments of cinema.
And then imagine if he got down from the leap, damaged his back, and then had to become a florist.
Billy/Larry is mad. Where did you train?
Bird College in Kent.
And was it jazz? Was it tap? Was it ballet? Was it contemporary?
Ballet, contemporary, jazz. Yeah, the whole thing.
Oh my God, I feel like a mother whose child has just fallen. That is horrific. And so you were doing that in your early 20s. So really at the beginning of your career, you had this accident and then you must have fallen, let's be honest, into a deep, deep pit of depression, Larry.
Well, Larry then kind of flitted around for a while, doing like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And I always say like Goldilocksing, trying to work out what plan number 2 was going to be.
Yeah.
And in that, I remember my father constantly was like, seriously, when are you going to work out what you're doing with your life? And I was
Classic.
like, what I was doing with my life. I had a very good plan, actually, and I was really quite good at it. Coming up with number 2 is a little bit trickier. So I trotted around for a little while, and ultimately I ended up working for somebody who ran a catering company. But I went in to do 2 weeks worth of office work, and then several years later looked up at my desk and was like, I'm really not supposed to be here. But in doing so, I'd surrounded myself in an industry that I didn't know even existed. I didn't know anything about events. I didn't know the scale that people operate at. And in that space, I managed to form really good relationships. I was sitting there kind of drawing and designing and doodling. And as that like frustrated creative, I was trying to work out like where to hang my hat next.
Yeah.
And there was a moment of doing it where everyone keeps telling you you're going to have this light bulb moment. And I was getting rather impatient. I'm not going to lie. Light bulb. I was like, when is it coming?
Any moment now. Anyone got a switch? No?
I'm like on that bar above at the platform. If it says 3 minutes, I'll wait 3 minutes. But in 4, I'm going to get pretty miffed. So I was like, when am I going to know exactly what I'm doing? And I was designing something for somebody with a very, very, very short lead time. And it was an intimate celebration for 2 people in a massive central London venue. And in that moment of doing so, I remember orchestrating this event and ultimately pairing the right people together and just kind of realizing, had I actually been able to just put A and B together, I would have made multiple times my then annual salary in that little moment, and would have ultimately, had the recognition for the work that I was producing.
Yeah.
With that in mind, I took myself off. I went and did a 2-week flower course, and I came back, handed my notice in, and went, this is what I do now.
Did you get, when you say you did a design for the intimate occasion, do you mean floral design, or do you mean like the event? So how did you get from that moment to deciding that you were going to do floristry
as a whole? But I became really frustrated with what was in the marketplace at the time in London in terms of a design service.
Mm-hmm.
I really felt that was lacking. I felt like people were asking a lot of money, but not actually pairing that with, for example, giving clarity to a client of what they were going to get for that. It felt tricky.
And when was this? How long ago was this?
We're talking like 20 years ago now, but
my God, you don't age, you men. It's not fair.
I know, 15 years ago. But the difference being that in that space, I feel like you're asking for X over here.
Mm-hmm.
But giving the clarity of what is actually being required was like a huge extraction process. I'm, on behalf of my client, trying to dig out and find out what's it going to look like. What am I going to get for this? And it's not just this one particular event, but it was time and time again. And I thought, well, if I was spending anywhere near the same amount of money doing a residential property, for example, and using an interior designer, it's part and parcel that you would be expecting a design service. You would get mood boards and concepts and renderings and watercolors and samples and swatches and things that ultimately allow you to see what it is that you're buying into before you press go and hand over a very substantial investment.
Yeah. So do you think that when you say that wasn't going on, you think that it was just a case of someone hands you a lot of money and then you just give them flowers? It was just flowers. It wasn't a design.
No, it was more just that, for example, like playing middleman between a client and all of those different vendors that were working in that space. You would be asked, say, a floor plan. You would be asking, what's it going to look like? And then somebody would send you, I don't know, 3 reference images, 1 email at a time off their iPhone. They were, you might wake up week and kind of get like 8 or 10 photos popped together on a mood board. But you're like, great, what's this really showing me? Like, what am I really getting? And you were getting like a few paragraphs of fluffy words that told you what you were getting, or you were getting an Excel spreadsheet that had a lot of numbers on it. But I wasn't getting the clarity as to what actually I was going to be getting. And that wasn't making it easy for me to sell it in for my client. But it also, I did a great portion of work on behalf of those other vendors working there because I was selling the dream. And I was like,
vision of you
doing this here and not really getting anything back for it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I have a vision of you sort of me sat at a desk in a high-rise in London sending you an email about a client's party, and then I have a vision of you coming in on my lunch break with sort of dancing elves and fireworks and be like, this is your mood board.
This is how I like to enter a room, absolutely. So that's my arrival.
Yes. Larry's here.
I do travel with my own smoke machine at all times. Yeah, Janet Jackson is always played upon entry. And then I, of course, come hand in hand with all these different things, swatches and books and fabric and all the things. And then we'd sit down over a boardroom table and we'd work it all out.
It should always be played upon entry. I've told my husband that 1 million times.
Absolutely. And also, when you exit, you should never turn your back. You should always walk and bow.
Yes, I always darling, I never turn my back when I exit. You don't know what could come of it. I think see, one of my questions, which you kind of already answered, I think, is that did you go straight from zero to, not zero, but did you go straight from the beginning into the high end luxury, big money?
Yes and no. Yes, I went in at the same level I operate at now in terms of quality service delivery. Just didn't necessarily have the trust that I have with my clients now, that I have
of course.
A portfolio that is reasonably robust. Then at the beginning, I was working on smaller projects, but still to the same quality. I was just putting less budget in order to produce something. So, for example, I would funnel that into, for example, like 1 or 2 hero pieces when very, very fortunate. If I'm doing the same type of wedding for a client now, I probably get 10 or 12 hero pieces, not one or two.
Now, tell the people who don't know the lingo, what is a hero piece? Because
So,
that to me is like that's sexual. But please continue.
not sexual, I can promise you. For me, it's like looking at a particular project and saying, okay, how do I make the very most out of this particular investment? Not only for my client, but also for myself. If you're trying to build a portfolio, if you're trying to be recognized for a particular scale of work, then, for example, I might sit with a client and go, okay, we're really going to invest in this ceremony. So I'm going to create the most beautiful ceremony imaginable without compromising on, say, cost, quality, or anything. But perhaps on the tail end of that, their dinner is a lot more simple
Yes.
because they don't have the budget to put hero moments in absolutely every turn. So cocktail reception could be nice and modest. Dinner could be more modest. And that ceremony would be the hero of that particular event. And then for me, that piece of media afterwards shows an uncompromising quality level on one thing. And like I would always rather do one project or one portion of anything well than all things diluted. Spend the
100%.
money but reapportion it in different ways, and you've got nothing that's going to get anybody exciting. In this instance, maybe you've got one piece of work that's going to get people excited, and time again, then you pick something else. So it's why equally it doesn't actually matter to me creatively the scale or the size of the project that I might be working on commercially.
Right.
I enjoy something about absolutely every project I do. And it could be that, for example, tomorrow I'm going on a very small, beautiful little wedding for maybe, I don't know, 20 people. And I'm doing a ceremony I've always wanted to create.
Tell me.
To that, I'm doing maybe just like one long table, nothing, nothing particularly exciting, very pretty, nothing to write home about. You wouldn't be thinking social traction in this part of it. But I've got something where somebody has, say, entrusted me to make something that I really want to bring to the table, and they've allowed me to do that. That excites me just as much as somebody allowing me to then go and do that 40 times over on a much larger
Yeah.
production.
Yeah. I mean, oh God, I've got so many questions for you. One thing that springs to mind, sort of listening to you, I completely agree, because obviously the scale of weddings that we work in slightly different. But what I sort of preach is that you can't have everything 110%. Whether your budget is 10 grand, 100 grand, or a million, you've got a budget, and the budget will run out, and you can't do everything. You have, like you say, the hero moments. You have to have those moments. But I would have thought with your clients, is there a ceiling? Can't they have hero pieces here, there, and everywhere?
Always. There's always a limit. There's always a budget, and it doesn't matter at which level
What
you
level?
at, there is always a budget. I've never not found a budget where they haven't stopped me from spending. Some people just go
Calm down, Larry.
a little further than the others, and some people allow you to maybe go into a different layer of detail than would be otherwise available to absolutely everybody.
So when you first started, did you find it a slow progression into where you are now? I mean, I'm sure years of hard graft to get to where you are now, but did you find it a slow progression, or was it more of a like, oh my God, this has suddenly happened overnight?
No, definitely not overnight. It's been many, many years of consistent working, consistently delivering at the standard that one wants to be at, being recognized for that in slow increments. It's building trust, it's building a long lasting reputation.
Because I suppose when you have got clients who have a certain amount of budget, in theory, they could choose anyone. They're not, so that's how do you become the person that they want to choose? How do you become, I suppose, I always think that it's the person as much as it is the craft. You have to trust the person, because it's a huge amount of money, but also it's a huge amount of trust and loyalty and commitment. And it's hugely important to these people.
Of course, of course. And it's an absolute honor to be put into that position, no matter
Yeah.
what the budget you're working on. It doesn't actually, to me, matter whether it's, say, £10,000 or £1 million.
Mm.
Is the person spending that, that's their ceiling.
Yeah.
That's everything that they've got in that moment. So the actual amount is totally irrelevant. It's such a level of trust for somebody to give you everything that they've got to spend in that moment to realize what it is that they've been dreaming of. It's
Mm.
an honor, but it's also such a responsibility, and it's one I take very seriously.
Yeah, it's huge. It's a huge honor to be a part of someone's day on any level, on any scale. It's huge. Um, what do you when people come to you, sort of from the beginning, I suppose 10, 15 years ago and now, it's probably changed, I'm sure, but when they come to you, how often do they have absolutely no fucking idea? And how often do they go, right, Larry, this is exactly what I want? Like that, I'm really interested in the creative process of, because if I came to you, I would be like, because I just think your work's so incredible, I'd be like, you do you, honey boo. Like, you do whatever you want. But I imagine you get some clients that have very specific. At what point? How do you manage that? Do you know what I mean?
There's always a mix. There's always, but there is like a really clear divide that from the very beginning, you've either got somebody who's really thought about it, they've been saved,
Mm,
been pinning away, they've got some ideas. Doesn't mean they're going to micromanage you, but it does in that moment that they're coming to the table having really thought about it. They've got other people who've just saying, I'm getting married, I've picked here, don't know what to do. Both are actually quite nice, and I like the challenge of each. I like the challenge of working through that process to get to a place where they're beyond delighted with a particular design or idea. But my job is really to interpret what it is that you're looking for in the most beautiful way possible, or at least that's how I see it. So I
mm.
work particularly hard, no matter which way you're coming to the table, to try and read you as quickly as possible, to really understand where you're coming from and to listen to all of the nuances of the things you're saying or not saying.
Mm.
Showing me something equally, you're not necessarily being literal. You could be showing me a picture of candles, but it's not actually the candles that you want. And you'd be like, I love this. But what you
But
actually
it's the vibe.
feeling or the atmosphere that's being created
Mm.
in that space. And it's my job to understand really, really fast, if I'm to read you correctly, what you mean by those images versus something else where you're being incredibly literal. And that is
Yeah. What?
real skill that continue to work on, but something that I pride myself on because that's where I can sit with even the most discerning or demanding of clients, and usually under very, very tight time constraints, because often we'll be asked to work on a project and essentially kind of rescue a project that may have got to a particular place with somebody else. But I might be
Really?
in 4 weeks to do a wedding that's particularly notable versus maybe 6, 9, 12 months. So if I'm to do that successfully, it's very much about being able to get to that place as quickly as possible so that we can really understand each other. And once we understand each other, then we can actually communicate in a way that each person understands.
Do you find it overwhelming? Do you find it stressful? Have you sort of honed your reactions to the situations? Because I think with what people don't understand often, I think, is that flowers are living things. And so much depends on so much. You can't just, it's not just picking up a rock. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Do you find situations stressful?
you're not just pulling things off the shelf at all. You're making something. It's an art, it's not a science. But we have to balance that by being logistically minded at the same time as being creative. We have to know that what we're proposing to do can also be made and installed under probably quite difficult circumstances. It could be the time constraints that you've got, it could be the space that you're working in that is challenging. It could be all of those things, and it could be Mother Nature that just decides that she's absolutely going to rain on your alfresco wedding, and you have to kind of suddenly pivot. But it's that I kind of get used to. I've been doing it for so long now that I'm used to the idea that actually it doesn't matter how far in advance you book me. Ultimately, everything comes down to the 2 or 3 days before your wedding,
Mm,
where I have to
mm,
put all of those things together. It's just the time allows you the opportunity to be creative,
mhm.
be able to have anything you want in that process because I could go and have something custom painted, custom stitched, whatever. I could do those things and I can prepare ahead as best I can. But ultimately, the second that it comes down to florals, everything is done at the last minute.
Oh, see, does that not make you nervous that you can't get what you want, or that it doesn't come in time, or, oh God, I can't bear it?
Tolerance level, like there's a place I've got to now where I'm used to that level of stress.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it's adding in, for example, your other daily activities. As you're trying to produce somebody else's wedding, you've got your next client asking for attention. And that is sometimes really, really tricky to manage.
Now that's an interesting one. And I over the summer, a colleague, a supplier friend of mine, I noticed that under her email, she would reply and she would put at the bottom of her email, "It is wedding season, so I will get back to you as soon as I can. Please respect that," or something along those lines. And I thought, brilliant, because I find that I don't know if you necessarily have a season as such, working at the level that you do, but the wedding season, so to speak, you're less on the admin because you're more in the action. And whenever people sort of want my attention on a weekend, I'm like, I'm giving this couple my full attention, and you should want that for them because you would want me to do that for you.
Yes, but then that's based on reasonableness. So that's based on
Yes.
reasonably. And that's not necessarily the case, but I totally agree with you. I saw it on somebody else's email, put it down as a note to myself of things to deal with over winter. And I was like, putting my out of office dates or like which country I'm going to be in at particular times so people know what time zone I'm going to be on so they know when to reach me. All things that I probably will never do, but I definitely
No.
onto my to-do list and was like, oh, that's smart. Love this.
This for my November admin month.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Do you have a wedding season because you travel so much? Do you have a season as such?
Yeah, I mean, because Europe is very led by the summer season. So destination weddings are very much May through September. So we've really kind of come to the very end now of key wedding season, but equally we still have work that goes beyond that. So in the US, it's particularly buoyant for both private and corporate work, October, November, December.
Okay.
So that we kind of shoulder one and move to another, which actually does help with managing our clients from different locations and does help us to be able to consistently deliver.
Do you have a favorite country to work in?
No, because that's not fair to all of the ones I go to. I love being in Italy and France. I do. It's beautiful. Both of those countries are stunning. The UK will and always has been home to me. So I equally. And New York's an amazing city. So between the locations that we go to, I'm very, very fortunate.
I mean, yes, New York is one of my top 3 favorite cities in the entire world. And do you believe I've never been to Italy in my 25 years?
Stop.
I know.
It's
I've
incredible.
never, ever been. I'm desperate
Incredible.
to go.
I hadn't been until like 5 years ago, and it totally changed my life going. I have the biggest
Really?
affair with Italy. I arrive, it feels like home now. It's not. I don't have a home there.
I said,
One day.
we've got 2 young kids, and I said to my husband recently, I'm looking forward to my 50s so that we can travel. He was like, what? I was like, I've just got visions of the kids are old enough. I'm going to wear a silk headscarf. I'm going to be in some sort of open top car on the Amalfi Coast.
Yeah, and as you should. But you shouldn't wait until you're 50 to do that.
I know, but these kids are ever so needed. I just don't think the Amalfi's made for children. Am I right?
Pop them into a kids club.
Yeah, well, that kind of kids club, they'd come out with a bloody Louis. How do you spell Louis Vuitton, Mama?
I mean, it might be an habit to keep, but either way.
How do you juggle with all the traveling then? Do you suffer terribly from jet lag? Have you got some secret medication that you're not meant to tell us about?
I have a trick. So wherever I go, even if it's a 1 hour time difference, my rule for the first 2 nights that I arrive anywhere, I take sleeping tablets. Just throw my body into the correct time zone. So when I go to New York, even if I'm tired, the rule is do it no matter how you feel, because otherwise you might be tired, fall asleep at say 9 p.m., but then you wake up at 2 and you're kind of like, bing. Yeah. So I'm like, no matter what, first 2 nights, and then you get your body straight into a natural rhythm on the time zone that you're on. But no, I mean, I bounce around. I think so far I've done about 74 flights this year. Yeah.
In air?
Absolutely. They fly to America very often.
God, I can't imagine you on Ryanair.
Oh, what happened?
Maybe
It happens. I don't care
no.
what's on. I just need to get from A to B.
And actually, I suppose the flight isn't long, is it? When you travel, do you travel on your own or do you travel with a whole team? Do you have an on? Does Larry have an entourage?
Larry does not have an entourage. Larry actually prefers to travel solo, even when the team are going. So often, if we're traveling all as one over for a project, I'll usually take the flight before, and I fly.
So awkward.
No, because I'll just meet them at the other end. But I have like a routine when I travel. I like to be in my own space. I like to get there. I like to just get ahead of time, whiz through, and I just like to go to the shops I want to go to, and all the things. And suddenly it's a bit being autistic. If you kind of disrupt that little part of my process, you throw my day completely off. So the more I have to be around great numbers of the
People.
public, the more I actually just like to kind of be quite insular. I put my headphones on and I just kind of like to be left alone. But also it's my time because I travel so often. It,
Yeah.
and it's my day off or it's my time to relax. So the other day I went to New York for what was 48 hours to go and see a client. But the going out and the going back were my days off that week. So I used
Yeah.
time to kind of say, okay, great, actually, in which case then I'm going to watch the movies, I'm going to take a nap, I'm going to fall asleep instead of work. But in doing so, I need to be in a space where I'm alone. Otherwise, suddenly you never get a rest.
I mean, I do understand it. I'm very much the same. But the thing is, I have to travel with my husband often. So I just walk off. I literally just walk off. I can't cope with it. I don't want, you will make me late. You will piss me off. I would like to travel the way you travel.
It's when somebody else goes, oh, I'm just going to go to that shop. And I'm thinking, no, we're not going there. This isn't in
Yeah,
my.
I don't want to. I
I
don't want
left
to.
this the last minute so I can whiz through the gate, walk straight to where I need to be. I don't want to have to worry about. I also have an Anya Hindmarch bag that I travel with religiously because it's one of those ones with all the labels and the pockets and the things. And
Fisherman's jacket.
exactly like a fisherman's jacket. That's exactly what Anya's been making. Um,
Well done, Anya.
but it's fantastic because it literally has a little label and a pocket for absolutely everything you could possibly need. So everything gets slid in there. And I'm like living my best life when I've got it because my brain is so calm. I know everything is there. I just whiz through. I don't have to think. And the more decisions that I can take away from myself when traveling, the smoother it becomes.
I mean, I'm with you. Can't. And traveling with kids is just a fucking
Yeah,
nightmare.
I'm
They're I can't. My parents fly quite a lot to Spain, and my dad is so incredibly cheap that he actually bought a fisherman's jacket, and he even got pockets specifically sewn into the jacket so that he could fill it with various items so that he could then still only go on with hand luggage.
And maybe that is what inspired that latest Prada collection, because that fisherman jacket there was a thing.
Yeah, Peter Sargent of Ledbury, Herefordshire.
Inspired you see a Prada.
He is something else. Um, Let me ask you, Larry, when you take on a project, do you, I imagine, and nearly every time there is a whole team of behind the scenes, but I imagine there's always a wedding planner, right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah. So how closely do you work with them? Do you use them as the go-between, or would you rather just go to the client? And also how closely do you work with production? Because I would imagine that lighting is very important to your work.
Everybody's important in that space. And so we do work collaboratively with all of that different vendor network. We work very, very closely with the producer and the planner because it's absolutely essential to
Mm,
getting a good outcome. The guest experience is ultimately related to the consideration that goes into everything.
mm,
I pride myself on the fact that that's why, as a designer, I've really pushed the envelope in Europe to be considered an event designer more so than just a florist,
mm,
because somebody needs to be art directing that celebration. Somebody needs to be thinking about the napkin, the place setting, the
mm.
that goes on there so that everything is consistent. So in that process, we very much work hand in hand with absolutely everybody. We're not necessarily in charge of looking after every single area, but we'll always find out precisely what's going on so that we can ensure that somebody is art directing and curating that overall look, because the guest experience is then absolutely intrinsic on that, on the consideration to things like entertainment, on rival. Fine, I'm not going to get involved in the transport per se, but I am going to know what that looks and feels like so that I can know how they're arriving and where they're arriving to, and then which part of the venue are they seeing first. So we very, very much work hand in hand with the planner the entire way through that process so that they're curating and pulling in from a service element, and so that they're looking at everything else that will be relating to entertainment, catering, logistics. So hand in hand, that guest experience is the best it can possibly be.
I think I always bang on the podcast about how I think that the most seamless, successful, beautiful weddings are the ones where you have pulled together a great team of vendors, of suppliers.
100%.
They make it. And I think also it's the people who,
I would say the most
it's the people
producers in the world are those people, ultimately your matchmakers. You're meeting a particular client who's come to you for a particular reason, but they've come to you to matchmake them with everybody else that they need to make that celebration a success. So in doing so, the producers that you see working at the highest level possible are excellent matchmakers. They're able to sit in front of their client, have a consultation and read them, just like I would, understand what it is that they're looking for, and also get to the nitty gritty of what it is that they would like to invest. And in doing so, pair together a team of people that ultimately are the best for that particular project in that moment. And actually, going back to one of your earlier points, for me, it's not necessarily about the spend that you have in one particular area. I vehemently believe that whatever you're investing, whether that's maybe 10,000 or 10 million, it's about actually cutting your cloth accordingly across all of those categories.
Absolutely.
It's not necessarily about coming to me and saying, actually, I want to do, and I want to do all of this, but I don't care what they eat. I don't care if the food's good. I don't care if the entertainment's good. Like, I care about all of it. It might not be my thing. I might not be getting paid on it, but it doesn't matter. It's about a consistent guest experience. So if we're doing that, actually, if you're going for something that is more modest from a design perspective, but that then also allows you to have the right category of entertainment and catering, stationery and dress and everything else, and it all feels consistent, it actually doesn't matter how much money you spend, your guests will have an amazing time.
I think as long as it comes together, and I think as long as it is, I think it should be a day where it is so indicative of you as a couple. It has to be. And I also think it amazes me how people, and I'm so lucky in what I do, in that I've been to so many different weddings, from sort of 10 people in a pub to 300 people in a chateau in Belgium. It's all different. I get to see all different types of weddings and occasions with all different types of people and budgets. And I find it so strange that people can be very much like, oh, well, that's not my job. I'm just here to do the lighting, or I'm just here to do the food, or I'm just here to do the ceremony. I'm genuinely, because I care and I get excited by it, but I ask all the questions. I want to know, are you having family style eating? Is the music going to be acoustic, or is it going to be a band? What are you into? And one thing I always ask without fail, and I'm particularly proud of myself, is I always ask what colours are, what the theme is, the vibe, predominantly the flowers behind me, around me, because I want to dress accordingly, which sounds silly, but to me it's fun. But also it has to the whole thing has to work together.
Of course it does. Of course it does. And if you went onto a photo shoot, for example, if you're doing a magazine piece, you have the photographers around you, you have the set laid up, you have the dresses, the makeup artist, the hair. Would you imagine that there is nobody overseeing that? Of course not. There's always somebody overseeing that. There's a creative director that sits there and pulls all of that talent together and gets the person to do their respective jobs in a way that, for the greater good, you see a full picture and something comes together cohesively. Because is that photographer supposed to art direct that shoot? No. there to photograph, and that's their skill set. And that's what they know and feel comfortable to do. So somebody needs to go into that space. And that's where I very much sat there 11 years ago and said, okay, hold on. I'm very, very happy doing the flowers. That's not an issue. But somebody in this space needs to have an opinion over what else this is happening, because I could do the most incredible job. But if you plonk that onto a white banqueting cloth and put disgusting chairs around it and then put me on some horsehair matting or something, then it doesn't matter how good my work is. It's still going to look awful because it's not considered.
No.
Therefore, I could actually a less impactful design. I could do something that's less ostentatious. It's not necessarily about the stuff.
Yeah.
It's about the intention, and actually curate that with, for example, beautiful custom embroidered napkins, beautifully chosen rental tableware, but pieces that sense with the design you're doing, and a chair that looks like it belongs, and a whole setting and a space. Now you've interior designed your wedding. Now considered, you haven't just got an epic sofa in your living room and absolutely nothing else around you. You've got a really beautiful room that makes sense.
God, I feel like I want to just lie back in one of your spaces. And that sounds strange. Do you know what I mean? I want to be surrounded by beautiful Larry Welsh.
We steam clean the rugs for every occasion. So come, lay on a rug, take it all.
I haven't steam cleaned my rug in so long, you know?
Every single one.
Oh, God. Okay, right. Just, I want one word from you. If I say the word, what do you say? I say chair covers. You say
vomit.
Okay, this is a fun game. I've just come up with it. I say bunting. You say
please don't.
God, I thought you'd frozen or had actually vomited.
No, I know. I did contemplate it. Yeah, I did contemplate it.
It's so, I find it so interesting, and you must have found this too, being in the industry for so long, sort of over 10 years, how much it has completely changed. And because of things like Pinterest and Instagram and TikTok, how do you find it and now with AI, Jesus, the amount of times I go on Pinterest and I type in something or see something on Instagram and I just think, oh, that's lovely. Must have a lot of money. It's fucking AI. How do you deal with that in your line of work with everyone coming at you with all these images and all these ideas, some of which aren't even real? Do you find it overwhelming? How do you sort of dissect people's ideas when they come at you with a lot?
I'm actually very pro using things like Pinterest. I like the fact that it helps somebody like yourself sat with me talking about what it is you would like to do for your wedding, be able to articulate yourself. Before then, it was harder because you don't even have a reference point to show me. So unless you can use your words or doodle thing, how do I extract that information from you? In some respects, the clearer you can be to telling me what it is that you're looking for, the faster I can read and understand what it is you're looking for. It doesn't mean I'm then just going to go and do something. I won't copy somebody else's work. But it does mean I understand what it is you're looking for. And we get into that realm quite quickly. First of all, you do that dance where you start dating and start courting at the very beginning of the process. In the first place, where I start seeing the expectations you have and then start realizing, does that marry to your investment profile? If it does, then we move on, we start dating. In that dating process, we get to know each other. And so we start, and it's like you coming to the table being like, I've brought this. And I'm like, cool, I'm bringing this. And then we do a lovely little dance where we work out who's going to win this particular one. Is my idea better than yours? But at that point, you play, you explore, you develop ideas. And then it's sometimes quite nice to look back on it once you've actually seen that finished project of where you got to 6 or 9 months later from where you started, and actually just realize where you were kind of like, oh, cool. Okay, great. They actually really trusted me a lot in that process because it started here and it ended here.
And that must happen sometimes where they come in with an idea and actually over time and over them sourcing all their other suppliers and creating all their other visions and ideas, that things have changed quite a lot. But tell me, you must have had at least one client that was a real dick. Come on. You can't like everyone. And how do you work for them if they're a dick? Come on, tell me. No one's listening. No, really, it's an issue.
You're absolutely correct. It happens. And in doing so, that does make the design process challenging. The more you can relate on a human level with somebody, the more you can interpret and understand what they're looking for as quickly as possible. So when that's challenged, you have to work that little bit harder to really try and understand and interpret. But I very much try and focus on the methods of communication that person requires in order to understand. I also work alongside my team that you referenced before. I matchmake within my own team who are the right people to work with a particular client. And so sometimes, really not me personally, somebody else's dynamic or somebody else's background or culture could mean that actually I'm going to find this a challenge to work in this process. So maybe I need a buffer between myself and the client. In that instance, I'll pick somebody in my team that's better suited to their personality. And so what's lovely is I have a really amazing mix of human beings that each bring wonderful talents to the table, but every single personality is very, very, very different. And in doing that, it means that if, for example, you're with me now and I'm thinking, right, I know exactly who on my team is going to have the best time with you. You're going to sit around with cups of tea, giggle for an hour, come away, probably have decided absolutely nothing. And then you'll just tell me to just go away, do my job and do whatever. But there'll be somebody else who wants to be very, very matter of fact, very analytical, very detail driven, in which case that person is so not right to be sat in front of that client. They're better with somebody over there that is going to bring exactly that. The spreadsheets, the lists, the schedules. I mean, things that literally just make me want to fall asleep. I appreciate them. I know they're necessary, but they're just not the way I work. I can walk the space and I can just know by looking in it, I know if something's going to fit. So to me, the idea that we need to measure it is trivial. I'm like, why do we need to do that? This is boring for me. I do appreciate it's necessary. So I have that will then go and do that just to verify that I was indeed correct. But I can just see a space. I stand in a space. I can just know that X number of tables are going to fit.
That is a skill that I do not have. If you said to me how many people were at the party last night, I'd be like 20. There could be 500. I've got no idea on numbers and sizes. How many inches is that? And it depends who's asking. But generally speaking, I'm 7. I don't know. I've got no idea.
No, to be fair, I'm pretty good at gauging that. You can put me in a white box space and I can already map out just in my own mind what will fit, where it will go, how that will work. More so than other people whose process is actually to sit down with, say, a floor plan and start drawing it out. It's just we all work differently. And my greatest challenge and the thing that I constantly work on, though, is with my team to actually understand that and work out who is best placed in part of that process. And going back to something you said earlier, when you're working with us, you're not just working with me. You're working with an entire team of incredibly talented artisans. And when relevant, they will come to the forefront. And I'm just literally threading along throughout that process, bringing the right people to the table at the right moment and providing access to people that know how to create and are much more creative than I.
Thank you so much for listening. It really does mean the world. If you find this podcast even remotely helpful or moderately entertaining, share with all your friends and family. You can DM me any questions, queries, if you want to share any stories on the podcast Instagram at I'll Marry You Podcast. Get in touch. I want to hear all your tall tales. See you soon.